Shalom, I'm Eddie Chumney of Hebraic Heritage Ministries, and we welcome you to this week's Focus Israel Report. In this week's report, we're going to be sharing with you the latest developments regarding the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, wherein the Palestinians are seeking to go to the UN General Assembly to get recognition of a Palestinian state based upon 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. They are expected to try to achieve a vote on the matter sometime later this month. An overview of the events associated with this is as follows. Tensions over Israel building Jewish homes in Jerusalem increased as on U.S. Election Day, Israel announced plans to build more than 1,000 new housing units in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank city of Ariel. Britain and European Union Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton strongly condemned the Israeli initiative. British Foreign Officer Minister Alastair Burt said, "I condemn Israel's provocative decision to advance settlement construction in East Jerusalem and the West Bank through the publication of tenders for over 1,000 new settlement housing units. Britain has been consistently clear that Israeli settlements are illegal under international law, and by altering the situation on the ground are making the two-state solution with Jerusalem as a shared capital increasingly hard to realize." Ashton made a similar comment by saying, "Settlements are illegal under international law and threaten to make a two-state solution impossible." So the question remains, will the United States and European Union countries translate their view that East Jerusalem is a settlement and it is illegal under international law for Jews to live there into supporting the Palestinian desire to present before the UN General Assembly a resolution recognizing a Palestinian state based upon 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital, given that the Palestinians have stated their intention to do so sometime during the month of November. In an interview with Israeli television, Mahmoud Abbas said that Israel should be supportive of this request. Upon hearing it, Israel President Shimon Peres supported the idea. However, Israeli presidents have little political power and do not officially speak for the government, as that is the job of the Israeli Prime Minister. That being the case, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected the idea that the Palestinians getting a vote in approval of a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly would be good for the peace process. Netanyahu's policy has been that Jerusalem remain Israel's united capital and that a final status agreement should take into account the large Jewish settlement blocks in and around the West Bank, which only consist of about 5% of the territory of the West Bank. Netanyahu has stated that the issue of borders should not be predetermined and that this is one of the things that are to be negotiated in any final status agreement. Netanyahu maintains that he is willing to have direct peace talks with Abbas immediately, but without preconditions. Netanyahu's office released a statement saying that Mahmoud Abbas has refused for 4 years now to renew the negotiations with Israel, and this despite a whole series of steps that Prime Minister Netanyahu has taken to allow for the resumption of talks, including the unprecedented 10-month settlement freeze in the West Bank that ended in September of 2010. In an interview with Israel's Channel 2 TV, Mahmoud Abbas said that what was needed to restart direct peace negotiations with Israel was for Netanyahu to accept a two-state solution based upon 67 borders. Netanyahu can do it now or tomorrow, and if he does, I will go and meet with him, Abbas said. Abbas said that no Jews have the right to live in the West Bank or East Jerusalem because he said this is occupied territory and thus Jews do not have a right for any of its citizens to live there. Abbas went on to say that the Palestinians are going to the United Nations this month to ask to upgrade their status to be a non-member state. In response, Israel Defense Minister Ehud Barak said that Israel and the United States must work together to delay a Palestinian unilateral statehood move at the United Nations until after the Israeli elections scheduled to take place on January the 22nd, 2013. Barak said, "We have a joint interest, ours and theirs, to delay the Palestinian UN bid to be a non-member state. The Obama administration and the European Union are also pushing Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to postpone his UN status upgrade bid. It is being reported that Norway has drafted a General Assembly resolution proposing that the Palestinians receive non-member state status in exchange for pledging to immediately resume peace talks. Norway hopes that all 27 members of the European Union would support this, but at the present time, not all European nations agree on the matter." One of the arguments being used in talks with the Palestinians by the U.S. and the European Union is that by launching such a move before the Israeli elections will play into the hands of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman, putting an end to efforts to restart peace talks, and it would weaken the political left in Israel, who is willing to agree to a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. Western diplomats fear that the Israeli elections will result in a tougher Israeli response to the Palestinian UN bid, going as far as to suggest that Israel might annex territories, annul the 1993 Oslo Accords, and adopt the Levy Report. Israeli officials estimate that despite U.S. and European pressure, the Palestinians are determined to take their bid to the UN either on November the 15th, which is the anniversary of the day that Yasser Arafat declared Palestinian independence in 1988 in Algiers, or on November 29th, which is the day in 1947 that the UN General Assembly voted in favor of the partition plan, and it is also the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people that is celebrated within the UN. However, senior Palestinian officials are saying that they will press ahead with the bid to upgrade their status at the United Nations despite expressed opposition by Israel, the United States, and the European Union. At a meeting with Middle East Quartet Representative Tony Blair, U.S. Consul Michael Ratney, and a French Consul representative, Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat said the Palestinian request for non-member statehood at the United Nations did not contradict the two-state solution. Erekat told the international envoys that Israel's settlement building violates the principle of two states, international law, and signed agreements. In response, Tony Blair echoed the importance of resumed peace talks, but he was not as clear about his positions regarding the Palestinians' UN bid. Blair declined to endorse or condemn the Palestinians' UN initiative, but he did warn against hasty reactions by Israel if the UN bid was approved at the General Assembly. Blair said, "We have to understand the position the Palestinians find themselves in. It is all about the credibility of the steps toward statehood. It is very much in our interest to offer them a way forward that allows us, one way or another, to get back to the negotiating table." Blair added, "I don't think that there has been any change in President Obama's view, which is that it is in the strategic interest of the United States and the world that a resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict be found." Meanwhile, Netanyahu appealed to Tony Blair by saying, "I have a constant suggestion which I renew with you today. I said it a couple of days ago, I'm saying it again. I think the best thing to do is to sit down together, negotiate without preconditions, avoid unilateral actions at the UN, and try to get on with the peace process. That's my suggestion to President Abbas, and I hope that you can help me to achieve this objective." Abbas has said that he would only talk with Israel once it recognizes a Palestinian state based upon the 1967 borders, or after the UN General Assembly approves this language as part of an upgrade in the Palestinian status to become a non-member state at the UN. Based upon their intentions to go forward with the resolution before the UN General Assembly, the Palestinians began circulating a draft proposal of their UN bid before UN member states. The draft, detailing the Palestinians' request to have its status upgraded from observer to a non-member state, was sent to the UN General Assembly, 193 member countries, as soon as the results of the U.S. presidential election became clear. Nevertheless, at this point, the request has not been filed with the UN Secretariat, which would be the one to introduce it to the General Assembly in order to have a vote. Palestinian observer to the UN, Riyad Mansour, said that the Palestinians have yet to decide on the final date for their proposal. The Palestinians are considering November 15th or November 29th as goal dates for the vote, but according to Mansour, the Palestinians are only floating the idea among UN members for now, to see what their response is to the proposal. The Palestinians say that a final decision on the UN bid will be made after an Arab League meeting on the issue scheduled to take place on Monday, November the 12th. If a vote is made at the UN General Assembly, it is widely accepted that it will pass, as it only requires the approval of the majority for it to be accepted. At the present time, about 120 countries of the world have diplomatic relations with the Palestinians in acceptance of a Palestinian state. Abbas Zaki, a member of Abbas's Fatah Central Committee, said that the 1993 Oslo Accords between the Palestinians and Israel will cease to exist the day after the UN votes in favor of upgrading the status of the Palestinians to be a non-member state at the UN. Zaki said that once the status of the Palestinian state is upgraded, the Palestinians would be able to pursue Israel for war crimes in the International Criminal Court. Saleh Rafat, member of the PLO Executive Committee, warned that the Palestinian leadership would annul economic and security agreements with Israel if Israel responded to the acceptance of the Palestinian request at the UN General Assembly by imposing sanctions on the Palestinians. The Palestinian officials said that they were planning to call for an international peace conference in Russia following the approval of the UN vote. The Arab League says that the time is right for the Palestinians to have their UN membership upgraded. A representative of the Arab League said, "It's time for Palestine to be a member state at the UN." Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met with Mahmoud Abbas over the desire of the Palestinians to go to the UN. Russia has always stood behind Palestine's statehood, and they will vote for the resolution at the General Assembly, said Lavrov. So with these things before us, we will await the Arab League decision on the issue regarding how the Palestinians should proceed at the UN. The Arab League decision is expected to take place on Monday, November the 12th. Well, that's going to conclude this week's update, where we shared with you the current situation with the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, wherein the Palestinians continue to insist that they are going to present a resolution before the United Nations General Assembly sometime this month, that the nations of the world will vote on whether they think that they should recognize a Palestinian state based upon 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. The significant date that we are watching for next is Monday, November the 12th, when the Arab League is going to have a meeting on the issue and most likely will give the green light to the Palestinians to go forward with the issue, and perhaps will establish a target date where a vote would be taken. So not only are we watching this development, but we also want to see what will be the reaction and how will the United States vote when the measure comes before the UN General Assembly. Will President Obama be agreeable to the Palestinian view? Will the United States vote yes, no, or abstain on the issue? And depending upon the outcome of the vote, will Obama recommend that the UN Security Council recognize the Palestinian state based upon 67 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital? We will continue to watch and see. Until we do it again, Shalom. In Yeshua the Messiah. Amen.